Hi, my name is Ruth, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the sustainability features of our house in Norfolk. You can see on the roof we have solar, and on the left is solar hot water, and on the right is solar PV. And you can see right now it has a lot of pollen on it, but just so you know, it usually looks beautiful and shiny, just like in this picture right here. The panels usually look blue, but the rain will wash the pollen off and they'll look good again soon enough. The solar hot water is just tubes that run antifreeze through them to heat up our hot water. Makes about 85% of our domestic hot water, and then the rest of it's made up in the winter when it doesn't get it to temperature with electric water heater. Those paid off in about 2.5 years. And then the solar PV is 4,000 watts of solar. That makes about half of our house use of electricity. This is solar PV or photovoltaic. And that cost about $40,000 when we put it in 2009, but prices have come down substantially, so that array right now would cost a little over $10,000. That pays off in about 10 years, both when we put it in and today. And there is no maintenance required. The pollen is washed off by the rain, and they're very resistant to anything like hail, snow, etc. When we first put the solar in, I was very nervous about it because our house is 1928 and it has very old beams, and I was worried we'd have to upgrade our whole electrical system or something. And it's very simple. They came in, put the panels in one day, didn't have to cut anything in the roof. There's one tiny hole for the electric cable to go through, and then the power just goes in the back of our inverter, and they didn't have to do anything structural to the house, and everything was done in 2 days. That silver line is what brings the high voltage down from the attic from our solar panels. That's our inverter. The power from the solar just comes into our breaker panel on that breaker, and then it comes with a display that shows you how much you're making at the time and how much you've made lifetime. This is our green roof. We put it in 2005, so right now it's 20 years old and still doing great and remains the funnest house project we ever did. It goes in as pods of plants that are 12 varieties of sedum, and then it self-selects to the plants that like it in your area. And you can see we've self-selected down to mostly 2 main kinds of plants. We get yellow flowers in the early spring and white flowers in the summer, and it definitely helps with our air conditioning costs. We saved about 20% on our air conditioning in the first months when we put it in. And it pays for itself within about the first 12 years because what we had there before was black asphalt that was exposed to sun, and you have to rip it off and replace it about every 12 years. So this roof should last 80 to 100 years. There's no reason for it to fail. Below the plants, there's about 1.5 inches of soil, and below that is a 5-layer composite. And 1 layer of that is copper to keep the roots from getting into your house. And the top layer is kind of a white crystally, almost like diaper substance that helps store water for the plants. These are a desert sedum, so they're accustomed to drought, and I only have to water them maybe once a year if we get some really extended hot weather. And then below this is our 3,000-gallon rainwater cistern and the sprinkler hose going up to the roof for the times that we do have to water it. Our green roof happens to be on a flat surface, but green roofs can be done anywhere from flat to a 45-degree angle roof. These are our permeable pavers. It used to be that when it rained even 1/2 inch, we would have a 4-inch flood in front of our house. So we had someone grade the driveway, and they dug 2 huge holes as French drains on each side of the driveway. Each hole is 20 feet long, 4 feet wide, and 8 feet deep. And inside it has large rocks at the bottom and then smaller rocks going up until at the top you have these permeable pavers. And the reason they're permeable is they interlock, and the spaces in between them let the water through. And so not only does this keep our driveway from flooding, but it also keeps all the runoff from our house from going into the Chesapeake Bay. This is the 3,000-gallon rainwater cistern, which cisterns all of the water off the back half of the roof. and it all goes into this cistern. We use it for all of our hoses, our sprinklers, the water to our dock and the green roof, and to flush the downstairs toilet. And it saves us, in a normal rain year, about 80,000 gallons of city water that we don't have to use because we can use fresh rainwater. These are our composters. They're spinning composters, which means that I can be very lazy and compost large chunks of things, and they will ripen and turn into nice compost. And I rotate between the two of them. Right now this one is the one I'm adding to, and that one is ripening. And about every 9 months I empty it out and use it on the garden. And I have a bin by my sink, so we compost all of our food waste and some of our yard waste. This is our first electric car, BMW i3. Gets 90 miles of range. Absolutely the funnest car to drive that I've ever driven. It looks small from the outside, but it seats 4 adults, and it's bigger than it looks. And it just plugs in on a charger here by the front door. We have 240 for it, because it works better in the winter to plug into 240 than 120. This is our Tesla Model S, much bigger car, also all electric, very comfortable inside, a lot of amazing features, like a really comprehensive screen, navigation features. It's got a lot of luggage space, and something that people always find surprising about an electric car is that, of course, there's no engine, so you just have extra trunk space in the front. The great things about owning an electric car are you never have to buy gas, you never have to get an oil change or a transmission fluid change or a belt change. There are just very few moving parts. An electric car has 18 moving parts, and a normal gas car has 2,200 moving parts. So it has very little that needs to be repaired or lubricated or fixed or maintained. Very little maintenance on the car. Have to replace the windshield wipers once in a while and the windshield wiper fluid, and that's about it. We have a huge wetlands buffer outside our house, which is great for filtering the water because we are in the watershed of the Chesapeake Bay. So anything that comes off the land is getting filtered in here before it enters the bay. This was a book our son suggested I read called Nature's Best Hope by Douglas Tallamay, and it's about how we could really help our ecosystem by planting native plants. And so over the course of the last year, we've ripped out all the alien invasive plants in our yard that don't do anything to feed local pollinators or local wildlife, and done all native plants. And some of these are less than a year old, but you can see this golden ragwort has filled in really well, even though it's less than a year old, and it's valuable to many butterflies and pollinators. We also over here have coral honeysuckle, which is a native that's really a big favorite with hummingbirds and butterflies. And we have some blueberry plants, which are also really valuable to the birds and butterflies. This area is a mixture of goldenrod and other native plants. Goldenrod is one of the most valuable small plants for caterpillars. It hosts about 20 varieties of caterpillar, and I've left some of the older plants standing so you can see the height of it when it's mature. In the fall, it's just a huge riot of yellow, and it's really beautiful. These are river oats, which will fill in and become a huge meadow of river oats, and they're really valuable for native birds because they have seeds in the fall that help the birds make it through after most of the plants have stopped having fruit. We planted plugs of a lot of ground covers that should fill in over the next several years. These are blue-eyed swanee grass that should form a thick mat of this beautiful purple flower. And this is another plant that should fill in as a ground cover. It's called Robin's Plantain and has these cheerful daisy-like flowers. This is a whole row of golden Alexander and Eastern Columbine, and the golden Alexander is specifically the host plant for the black swallowtail butterfly. This is our lawn. You wouldn't think a lawn would be very environmental, but we have tried to decrease the area of our lawn, and also we use no chemicals on it. We mulch cut it so that the nutrients from the lawn go back into it. And once every couple years, we do a light top dressing of soil or compost to make sure it has enough nutrients. And it's St. Augustine, which is a very weed-resistant grass, which does well in all seasons without any chemicals. This is to show some of the things we do inside the home to be helpful to the planet and reduce plastic waste. For laundry, I use these things called eco soap nuts. They're nuts that have a natural property of releasing soap bubbles. So you put them in a little bag and you can reuse them over and over again, so you're not shipping large amounts of liquid laundry detergent with all the chemicals. I use a powder for the dishwasher that's phosphate free, and by using a powder you make sure they're not spending fossil fuel to ship liquid long distances. We try to use all bamboo for any of our kitchen products. I never use plastic water bottles or disposable cups. I try to use reusable coffee and water bottles. We get everything recycled. Our paper towel and Kleenex and napkins and toilet paper are all 100% recycled. And I try very hard not to use any paper plates, but if I do have to use disposable plates, I use something sustainable. These are made out of bagasse, which is sugarcane waste, and they also compost. And then instead of saran wrap, I use this thing called bees wrap that you can use to wrap up your food, and you can reuse it over and over again, and there's no plastic. We also do recycled for paper. These are envelopes that are 100% recycled. Our copy paper is 100% recycled, and our Post-it notes are recycled. Even crazier, I grind my own flour. Those are wheat berries, and that makes sure that you're not throwing out flour that goes stale, because you can just grind it as you need it. I clean with rags instead of with paper towel, and anything in a bottle that I buy, I try to buy in glass instead of plastic. We use recyclable batteries for everything, which saves us a lot of money, but also saves taking all those batteries to hazardous waste. We do all our shopping, grocery and other shopping with reusable bags, so we're not putting so many plastic bags into the system. If we do have a plastic grocery bag for something, we try to either reuse it or take it in for recycling. Not shown here, we also use preserved toothbrushes, which are made from recycled yogurt containers and then are sent back to get recycled into plastic furniture. And we have all LED lights. And the last thing is, I don't cook any meat. I don't eat meat. I'm a pescatarian, which means a vegetarian that also eats fish. And I feel like by eating low on the food chain, we are helping mitigate climate change.